you. My name is Byrd. I am a DJ and a podcaster from Providence, Rhode Island. I'm also also a representative of Heroes Read, which is a local nonprofit organization that introduces children and people and kids in school through to reading and get them excited through reading by different forms of various media, whether it be comics, manga, movies, etc. So enough about me. Oh, here we go. First of all, I would like to start off to my immediate left. We have Ingrid Pierre of Verona Creative, and she has such titles as Second Forum, Girl Steal Your Beauty, and Secret Black Woman. Welcome, Ingrid. All right. Next up from Roxbury, Massachusetts. Not Roxbury, excuse me, Brockton.
Yeah, Brock.
Brockton. Yeah, I gotta get that one right. This is Reggie Themistocle.
Themistocle.
All right, Themistocle. Then he has various titles such as Violent Drama, Boston Powers, and Wonder Funders. Thank you very much. And next up, we have Javon Stokes of Visually Stoked Media with his two key titles, Heat and Strong. Welcome, Javon. And then last but not least, we have Stephen Curry.
Cherry.
Yeah, sorry. I'm just messing. No, Stephen Cherry, not Steph Curry.
No, I wish.
Of S. Comics with his title Project Savior. Welcome. So let's just start off by asking some general questions, and then we can move on to the audience. Tell us about your humble beginnings and why, what got you into creating comics in the beginning, Ingrid?
Yeah, so I got my start as an illustrator. I have a weird art degree from Harvard, but I was a member of the Harvard Lampoon. I was an illustrator on staff, and I learned a lot about indie comics from people who were doing it for that publication. And then afterwards, I started a Tumblr that was like my humble webtoon origins for Secret Black Woman. This was like a autobiographical series I started kind of in the Obama era. I like to say when there was still nuance in the world, about being biracial. And then it kind of went on from there. I wrote my first graphic novel, and I won an award, the Mice Grand Prize that year that it debuted. And I've just been very happy to be welcomed by this indie community. I would not have it any other way.
Reggie?
So I did a lot of comics. Well, I did a lot of fan drawing comics on recycled paper when I used to be when I was a little kid, and I went to the Boys and Girls Club after school. So that was when I was 12 years old. Then I started, and then I did comics for my local school newspaper. I did comics and layout and design for UMass Boston's student newspaper. And then after that, I actually was working somewhere else. So I was working in retail, and then I moved into healthcare. And I was sort of doing here and there through the Boston Comics Roundtable, the Comic Book Artists Guild, and just really trying to network and collaborate with different writers, different artists, getting into anthologies. So that's how I got started.
Thank you very much, Javon.
This is difficult. I started making comics when I was 5. You draw them up and you staple them together and you show your parents, and they're like, "Oh, that's great." They weren't. But I want to say 2005, I did my first indie book. I didn't sell it. I just kind of gave it out to Marvel and DC, and I thought I was going to get a job in a week. I didn't. And then I went back to school, Savannah College of Art and Design, finished my degree, and then around 2013, did my first book, did my first Kickstarter. It failed. Came back, did it again, lower price, and from that point, it succeeded, and it's just been snowballing since then.
Steph?
Kind of like Javon said, I did comics when I was a kid, handed to my parents. My parents were like, take the basketball back and like leave me alone type of thing. So it kind of took me out of it for a long time where I just focused on sports, and I hated reading, writing, drawing after that. So it wasn't until probably my last year of college, I wrote Project Savior. I actually wrote it then and finished it and finished all the writing, editing for 3 novels in 2010. And then when I met my wife and we had our first son, we traveled to South Carolina. There was really nothing to do out there. And she's like, why don't you draw? And I was like, that's kind of like a sore subject. So I was like, well, let me try to draw again. And I started drawing, and then I was like, I have ideas for comics, so I didn't really push it then. And I stream on Twitch as well. And with the community I have on Twitch, we just randomly, somebody was like, why don't we come up with a story? And I was like, okay, let's come up with a story. And that kind of sparked it to pull out Project Savior and say, okay, I'm going to start with this and get this fully done. And that's how that came about last year.
Very good, very good. So why comics? I mean, everybody has an avenue and they can just easily get, well, not easily, but they can get started in so many different forms of media, whether it be film, TV, or even just simply writing literature. But why comics for you?
This is such a funny memory that you just triggered in me. Outside of the autobiographical series, I always had in mind I wanted to write a zombie story. And how it originally started, which is hilarious, is that I had this idea for like a musical, like a concept musical, and it just ended up being so strange that the only way I could really express it is through something that wasn't in the real world, and that had to be drawing at the end of the day. But yeah, there was like a really crap like demos that I made for this weird zombie musical that like never came to life. No, that's how Do Not Resuscitate, my first zombie romance book, came about.
So I originally wanted to get into animation, and I had a horrible experience at a convention, and I went to one of the first revivals of the Boston Comic Con, and I really had a good time. There was a lot of encouragement, and I just did it on a whim, and the output felt a lot better. It felt like I can get something done and accomplished, and then I would go on to the next one. I really like doing a project, getting it done, and then going on to the next one, because that's how I'm kind of built. I also knew that if I would get into, at the time, if I got into mainstream comics, I could transition into animation. But then things got a little bit iffy and weird, and I decided to just stay in comics for a little bit. I really like the ease of access that comics provides, and it also gives me the ability not to do the same thing twice.
My love of comics is old and deep. Comics is big part in how I learned how to read. Big part of how I developed my vocabulary. I would read a comic and I would get to a word and my mother would say, and I would say, Mom, what does that mean? She would go get a dictionary. And I would keep going to her and she would keep saying, go to the dictionary. So then I was just comics dictionary, right, when I was reading. But I've loved comics ever since then. My degree is in animation, but I really wanted a degree in comics. But at the time, I didn't think you could make a lot of money in it. Still can't make a lot of money in it. But I do. I love superheroes. I love, horror. I love thrillers. Any type of comic I read. I still read comics now. I need to read comics to go to bed. So that my love is deep. Look at that.
No, same for me. Comics kind of help keep me out of trouble because sports, you play sports, the jock mentality kind of takes over. But I think with the comics, it kind of reeled me back because, one, you didn't want to tell people you read comics, especially back 80s, 90s. You didn't want to say, like, oh, yeah, I read comics, I watch anime, I watch cartoons. Like, everyone would make fun of you. It's like, but it did keep me away from a lot of things that were easy to get into. And so I guess it's that childhood experience, the whimsy, the wonder, and all the fun things of my childhood I can bring to life now. And like I said, I wrote 3 novels, but in the novels, you're so detail oriented. Everything has to be perfect in order for somebody to see what your vision is. Where the comic is like, okay, you can see my vision. Here's a couple words to throw it together, but it's all right there for you to see. And that's what really pushed it further for me. I was like, this is what I want to do.
So what are some like how does your individual upbringings inspire your work?
It's very directly for me because I write so autobiographically. I even my fiction is really taken from my real life. Like my most recent graphic novel, I wrote this while I was undergoing IVF and experiencing this sort of like horror feelings of motherhood and dealing with the hormones that were really coming up, and it manifests itself as what I usually do, which is a kind of feminine horror narrative. But yeah, but my direct life, I spend a lot of time thinking about how to make meaning out of what I've experienced, and I'm the kind of person who uses this stuff very therapeutically. So that's what it really means to me. And yeah, my first contact with comics was like the free bin at the church, where there were things. Even Spawn, for some reason, was there. But my Haitian grandmother, she would read these things. They're sort of visual graphic novels. It's with photographs rather than with drawings.
Oh, okay.
And they're just like little puffy romance stories. But that was my first interaction with sequential art.
I remember those. I know those.
I come from a family of artists, especially on my mother's side of the family. But, because of the way the world works, you pursue a career that makes you money. I also grew up around music, and, we watched TV, and we were in the boom of the 90s where, animation was starting to become like a big thing. So it was a mix of the aesthetics that I've watched through music videos, through TV, video games, movies, and of course my own culture as a Haitian man. I think all of us bring those types of like different avenues of who we are and compartmentalize them into like one specific type of style in terms of making a comic, whether it is aesthetics, writing, theme.
My mother was an artist. Actually, my mother was an artist. My dad was a musician. But my mother was a single mother. But I saw my dad. So I've come to realize a lot of my stories are about parents and the relationships between parents and children, and how one influences the other, whether the person is there or not. So my book Heat, excuse me, is about there's the superheroics, yes, but there really is the son who's the superhero / vigilante, and then the father who's the lawyer. And so there's always the butting of the heads of how a parent views the world and how a child views the world, So it's definitely an influence on mine. Sorry, I have no voice. I've been talking to customers all day. I apologize. But yeah, definitely my relationship with my mother and my relationship with my dad, and my relationship between my mother as an artist and me as an artist. My mom did not want me to be an artist. Not in a don't do this thing, but more in a don't you want to do something that makes you money way? Like, doctor, lawyer. No, I want to do the same thing you're doing. But she encouraged me, regardless. So my stories are always, for some reason or another, go back to parents and the relationship between a parent and a child and how they intersect and are opposed as well.
For me, I grew up in an interesting home, state trooper home. My father was a state trooper, so that was always like you had like such a strict sense of justice growing up, and like you do something wrong, like I did something wrong, he put me in a cell. And like, here's your bologna sandwich, deal with it. So the stories that I write are very like justice based, of like a good morality, but also growing up biracial, so my mother's white, father's black, the duality of people, and then I also went to a Catholic school growing up, so it's that duality of good, evil, and like what makes a person, and how you need that balance. You can't just be all good, or you can't just be all bad. You have parts of you that are good, parts of you that are bad, and you have to find that balance in order to be a complete person. So that's what I kind of play around with.
Okay. So what are some of the obstacles that you all face while working on your art?
Where to begin? I tell this story a lot because it's so funny. It makes me really empathize with people who misspell their tattoos. But my very first print run of my first graphic novel, Do Not Resuscitate, was spelled wrong. Resuscitate, turns out, nobody caught it. I went through a digital release that many people saw. My friend did the cover and did the graphic art. I had so many eyes on that thing, and the cover is spelled wrong. So that's my horror story. I look back at that though, and I'm like, oh, that's such an example of self-publishing. You're doing things on hard mode. You're gonna do things that you would never expect to do. Like, I'm such a stickler for copy. If there are typos in here, don't tell me about them. I don't want to know.
I mean, it's going to be quite obvious. The biggest struggle I have faced has always been money and work-life balance. I work, and of course, if you live in Massachusetts, you already know you have to commute to work, especially because you don't want to deal with Massachusetts traffic. So I would wake up early, commute like an hour, come back home an hour because the commuter rail has weird traffic times. And then I also have to take care of my health. So I exercise, I have to prep for tomorrow, and then if I'm lucky, I get to work on a comic for like an hour or two, if I'm lucky. The other resource, money, is I am truly living on my own. I do not have a roommate. I don't have a significant other. I pay my own bills, mortgage, all my taxes, everything. And that means I don't have a leeway to take some days off, or if I'm taking a vacation off, that would be when I would have to work on like some comic work. I can just, not do it and, spend my vacation doing other stuff, but, sometimes it's just, that's the luck of the draw, especially if you are printing and not using like crowdfunding sources. That's the same thing. So it's usually money and time and work-life balance.
Everything he said. So I'll pick something else because he's spot on. Just like I couldn't have said it better. I'll say this: one of the things I did struggle with outside of all that was imposter syndrome. Um, Understanding that what I do is good, and my books are good, but a part of me, sometimes it's small, sometimes it's big. Wonders, are people buying my books to feel sorry for me, or they're just being nice to me, and it's a really stupid thing. But as a creator, I'm sure you guys have all had it at some point where it's like you only see the negatives of your work, and so like my original book, it's hard for me to even look at, like, because I am not the same artist then as I am now. And I had to get to the point where I'm realizing that I might have looked at that thing 100+ times. You will see it for the first time, and you won't see every line that I messed up that I didn't have time to go back to do. So that was one of the biggest things I had to struggle, just even with the first book, and realizing like, okay, this page is done. I can't do any more to this page. Move on to the next one, because otherwise you get stuck. And you'll constantly be, I could do better, and then it will never come out. So.
It's the biggest struggles. I have 3 kids, which I'm glad you all know.
Call your kid a struggle, man.
It's not a struggle. It's the balance of time with the kids. So like, I'll sit down to do work, and it's dad, and you just hear it getting louder and louder. You try to like tune it out, you're like, my wife will take care of it, and then it's like, well, Dad, I need something. It's like, what do you need? And it's like, I just wanted to say hi, and then they run away. And it's like, but that whole process takes like 25 to 30 minutes. So it's like, then you realize how less time you have to do things. And then, but I mean, it's fun in the long run when you think about it, but it is a struggle when you're talking about time. And then also, because I do all the panels, the sketch work, and everything like that, and then I send it off to an inker, and then I have a colorist as well. Well, the process between sending it to them, then somehow pages disappear. Then, oh, I forgot to do that. Or, oh, well, I thought you wanted me to do this instead. I'm like, but I gave you the picture. All you have to do is just copy it in your style. You can add a little bit of flair to it. But, like, why would you change it completely from what I had envisioned? It's like, well, I thought this was better. And it's like, you want to say, well, you thought wrong, but you can't say that. You have to be professional. So it's going through that, and then, then it comes down to the colors, where they're doing all the colors. And it's like, where did you get those ideas for colors? Like, how did you come up with that? Well, I thought it would make it pop better. It's like, this is supposed to be, I get it's not realistic, it's a fantasy, but it should be like an explosion shouldn't just be green out of nowhere. So that's a huge struggle when you have a team that you're working with, and how to communicate it effectively without offending anybody. Because I had it where when I first started and I had the first line artist that I had, I told him I didn't like something, and it turned into like 2 hours of me consoling him to tell him he was a good artist. And I'm not good with that, because I didn't have, like I said, state trooper father. I didn't have parents that were like, oh, don't worry, you're great. It was just like, suck it up and keep going. But you have to be professional. You have to take care of the people that are helping you out. And that's my biggest struggle, is the team that you work with and trying to get them all on the same page of what you're doing.
Okay. So what are some of your favorite things about being an independent comic creator? I know a lot of people do have aspirations of making it to the big 2, 3 if you count Image. But yeah, what are some of your favorite things about just being independent?
I never want to be on Amazon. I barely want to be on Goodreads. I love meeting people and being able to give them the context. Like, my work ranges all over the place. I don't have a brand. I don't want to like market or put myself in some narrow band. To me, being indie means I can do whatever I want, talk about whatever subject, change genres, change styles. I have a little skate comic that looks like Adventure Time. I have these, which are really naturalistic and all black and white. I love that freedom. And also, I'll be totally real, because we're talking about money. I am my own art patron, so my 9 to 5 pays for my 5 to 9.
Amen.
And that's the route you have to take if you are not really in it for the money, or not in it for the volume. I have no interest in that. I like to know the names of everyone who buys my books. So yeah, if you meet me downstairs, I'd love to meet you.
For me, I really I always try to keep myself at a professional level, but I really love the flexibility of deadlines. You don't have to worry about. I mean, you still have to be your own editor. You still have to be your own proofreader. You still have to think about. I always show my work to get feedback from other creators, and that is a nicer advantage. I also like the fact that I don't get to be pigeonholed as a superhero artist or a horror artist or a romance artist. So you have more room and opportunity to experiment and do different things. You don't need to follow certain rigid style guides or any certain types of mandates from, for example, Marvel or Big Two. You don't need to pull teeth to get this in your book. You don't need to go through all these hoops to get this, or even fight for your own, what you really want. So there is a little bit more freedom in in the type of content you want to make, without any restrictions.
The truth is, it's really hard to get a job at Marvel and DC. I don't know if anybody's told you this. If you want to go to Marvel and DC, that's great. I'm not telling nobody to stop. The truth is, when you're an indie creator, as they said, there's a joy in the freedom to have your creative opinion, your creative thought process be totally unfiltered and displayed out for the world. Now, there's good and bad to that, because there are some creators who could use a hand with reining it in, because sometimes it go crazy, and then then there are other people who you could loosen up. But the truth of the matter is, you're out there on an island by yourself, and you swim, you sink or you swim on your own. And I consider myself, and I'm sure you guys do as well, as entrepreneurs. So whatever degree we like being our own bosses. When you work at Marvel and DC, there's so many editors. There's so many levels of yeses that you have to do to get your story. And by the time you get to the end of that story, and mind you, I'm telling you stories from other creators, it might not even look like the story that you had to begin with. That's fine. I would love to work for Marvel and DC at one point, but that's the 5-year-old that loves Superman and Batman and Spider-Man. But as I said before, my love of comics is deep. So I do this out of love. It's great. I would love for you all to come by my table and buy my book. But if you didn't, if you just came by to take a look at it, I'd be cool with that too, because I love making comic books. And it's part of my encouragement to you. If you want to be in indie comics, I wouldn't look at it as you said, brand or IP or everything. That's great. But if your book's not good, nobody cares. Nobody's going to care about if you have T-shirts, whatever. So I do this for the love of the craft. And so that for me is where the love of indie comes from. I love comics. Whatever genre, medium that I can use, as you said, horror, whatever, a slice of life, my boy over here, Estat, is out here putting out some great stuff. Whatever it is, I like doing it. So that's where that's what I would say, the biggest part of it, best part for me is.
Yeah, I'll agree with you on that. And I know a lot of the artists and writers from Marvel and DC. And it's all just here's, $300 a page. Sounds great, but you're not getting royalties back, you're not getting anything. It's just, if you want to do something for Marvel and DC, you just have to look at it as, I just want to do this one project, and then even though you could have a great storyline, you could be doing really well, they could say at issue 6, we're going to drop you. We don't want to deal with you anymore. We don't want to meet those demands, or we can pay this person less. So looking at it as Marvel and DC, they're companies. So doing this independently, it makes more sense. Money-wise, it may seem like a struggle at first because you're putting all your own money into it. You're doing all the stuff to get it there. But once you do get it there, it's so much better because then you do have the ability to set the prices. If you go to any of the larger conventions and you talk to any of the Marvel and DC guys and they're given their books, they get those books and they have to buy them from Marvel and DC. They're not getting them for free. So that's why they charge you. They'll say like, oh, I'm selling you this book. This is my special edition for $40. And you're like, I just saw it in the store for $6. Well, yeah, Marvel and DC can sell it for $6, but I have to buy it for $20, and that's what a lot of those the cover artists have to do, and a lot of the writers the same thing when they have those special edition books. That's why they're so expensive because they have to cover all their costs as well. So like I can turn around and say, this is my book. I got it printed. I know how much it costs. A kid came up to me at one of the conventions and said, I only have $5. Okay, that's fine. I can do that. I don't have a handler telling me no. I don't have my wife and kids, but I don't really have a handler telling me no. You can't sell it for that price. I can sell it for that price, and it's fine. In the excitement behind it for a kid to get a book, or even adults to say, oh, I really got this, I don't have it. You can lie to me if you want to, but it's getting the books out to the people that want to read it, and I'm fine with that. And that's what I like about being an independent creator, is that you do have all those freedoms. And the other thing is that I have been approached by some of the other studios, and they take away all of your freedom. They say, like, you can't use this cover artist. You can't use these interior. You can't do this. And it's more you can't than go ahead, we want to see what you have. So that's one of the things you also have to look at as well. And, putting it all together, it's a lot better being an independent.
And I'm going to piggyback on what he says about the you can't. You also have to understand that what you do at the big twos, we call them, whatever you create, they own. So you guys saw Captain America: The Winter Soldier, right? The guy who created the Winter Soldier, I think he got a check for like it was like $1,800.
Yeah.
Total
for $1 billion property.
For $1 billion property. That's all. The guy. Oh, I'm sorry.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I remember hearing that story. The writer, Red Brubaker, he actually did a cameo in that same movie.
Yeah.
He got paid for the cameo that he
Yeah.
did in the character.
Jim Starlin. Do you guys know who Jim Starlin is? You know Thanos? Thanos. He very specifically told me he got paid more for a background KG Beast in Batman, Superman, Dawn of Justice. I guarantee none of you know which character it is. They used the name of the character, and he got paid more for that than Marvel paid for Thanos. You don't get as much of the profit as you like to get. Now there are outliers like Rob Liefeld. He gets paid for Deadpool, but he also has a specific contract.
Right.
That's not a contract that they give out a lot. So the flip side of it, because I know we talk money a lot, and how much money you put in, but on the offhand chance that you end up with The Walking Dead, the guy who does Hellboy, he's set for life. Now that's few and far in between, but it is one of the big perks of being an indie person. So he just gets to make comics his whole life because he's making money off that. So it is a flip side. It's a small percentage flip side, I'll say, but it grows every day.
You see more people making it big from independent comics than they do from big time comics.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
That's where you see the difference.
Absolutely.
Now, who are some other indie creators that you would like to work with if given the opportunity?
So any indie creator.
I mean,
I would like to work with Javon. That's from the same area. There's another person down there. His name's Chad Millings. He has the Rejects book. It's just because we're from the same area. So, and it's funny talking and like, it's like we all just like missed each other
for years,
but we know a bunch of the same people. So it's just funny how that works. And then Another person I'm good friends I talk with. I'm on one of his covers. He's in one of my books. Is Sebastian from Stranger Comics, which they're getting all of this shine now. It took them 15 years, but they're getting the option for the animation. They're getting the live action movie, which Viola Davis is doing. So it's kind of like, and I talked with him. We want to do a project together. There's quite a few people out there that are really solid and sound in what they do, and I think being an independent creator is like, I've worked with a lot of indie cover artists that is fun to work with, and I tell them, do what you want to do. I don't want to, because everyone always asks, well, they tell me that, oh, they want the cover to look like this. And I'm like, I don't want that, because I don't want to stunt what you can do. So you do what you want to do, and we'll go from there.
You guys want to go first?
For other indie artists we'd love to work with?
Yeah.
I do a lot of my stuff like Lone Wolf, so I'll just use this opportunity to put my friends on. My friend Kayla E., who I really hope everyone looks at her book, she's an editor right now for Fantagraphics. She released a book called Precious Rubbish, which is the most like soul-scratching, dark but beautifully illustrated book. She and I have completely opposite styles, but I think she won the prize at SPX for Best Graphic Novel. But everybody should read her stuff. And then locally, there's Bull Hilligan Press, which is run by Zach Clemente, who's a former MICE volunteer and important to the community. I think everything that he prints is stunning.
I second Bull Hilligan Press. There are a lot. I want to work with Iron Circus Comics, which is ran by C. Spike Trotman from Chicago. She also she's like a really big crowdfunding giant. She also did a pilot for Lackadaisy. There is Pat Shan's Space Between Comics, a very sleeper one, but always consistent. People always talk about it. I'm always in a Discord with comic creators, so whoever is willing to work with me, I always step up to the challenge. Right now, I know a few that are, but there's like too many to count, because there's a lot of talented people that I want to work with and collab with, and that's a really big beauty. I don't need to jump through hoops to ask if they want to collab or not.
A lot of people I'm going to be working with soon, and I can't really talk about it. So, now you're not getting it. I do want to work with Marcus Williams. You guys know Tuskegee Airs? Ever heard of that? Yeah, awesome artist. I know him. He's a good guy, but he's too big for me. No, I'm joking. I'm joking, Marcus. Let's see. The big fish for me would be Todd McFarlane. Todd McFarlane is my mentor in my head. I've always been a fan of his artwork from before Spawn, Incredible Hulk, Spider-Man. Even before that, he was doing I can't think of it in my head right now. But Todd McFarlane. But I do a lot of work with. I've done work with Greg Elise, who's downstairs. I've done work with Danny Quick. Have you ever heard of Ace Blade? Anybody? Well, Danny J. Quick and who else? Morgan Iverson. I've done work with them. We did a podcast together, but we're gonna do books together. Mike Watson, Victor Dandridge. I mean, I could really. There's a who's who of black comic book creators. A lot of them downstairs. That I want to work with, I'm planning to work with. Me and this gentleman here are going to be doing something soon, since he let the cat out of the bag. I don't know if we were supposed to talk about that, but whatever. We break rules because we're indie guys. But yeah, the good part about being an indie is you meet so many of the creators, and if they're good guys or they're good people, you're always talking, and it's not hard to collab because all you got to do is ask. I don't have to call an editor. I can call them up. I can send them a message, hit them up on Facebook. The communication barrier doesn't exist. The money barrier does. They still want to be paid.
Now I want to open the floor for questions for our esteemed panelists.
Sure. For those of you who have printed your own work, it's in the physical, and for those of you who may have not started out digitally, or I guess, what is the experience of like having a comic that's digital first, and like what has been your personal experience with like getting it printed, from looking at like first edition copies to mitigating costs, or what was that process of what did that process look like for you? It was like, I want to make a physical print of my work, and then finding a printer, navigating the costs, and like having a pen to sell and talk about it.
I can answer that question easily. I did digital first because when I saw the bill for printed, I said, "Oh no, I'll wait a little bit." But digital, what I found out with that is that a lot of people still like holding books. So digital, even now, I have digital up where I think I have like $1, $2. No one really buys digital. They'll grab it if it, but I was sending them out to people when they bought the book or like did the pre-order. I would send the digital copy out and they're like, "Why'd you send this to me? I just want the book." And I'm like, all right, I get it. So you kind of have to suck up that number of printing and get it done. And I would say this is that I know there's, Comics Wellspring, they've got Ninja Print, they've got Mix, they got all these places that you can go to. I ended up finding a local print shop that does all my comics for me, prints them all out, and it saves on shipping cost and some of the money of like the setup fees and stuff like that. They do the setup fees differently. So I can just send them the interior part and then all the different covers that I have, and there's not additional setup fees for each book. So there's different ways to go about it. It's just what fits best for your budget. But I would say doing physical copies is extremely important because people like physical copies.
Your question?
Kind of goes back to something you said earlier in terms of like being your own brand. I think right now we exist in a world where everybody is their own brand, whether they like it or not. So, like, how do you guys incorporate that in terms of like marketing or advertising your works and like getting out? I know the festivals and conventions are big, but like what other avenues do you guys go about?
I would say Kickstarter was a pretty good marketing vehicle for me to begin with. I don't know if I can speak for everybody here, but to me the best way to do this is to do as many cons as you can.
Yep.
You could social media. How do I put this? The algorithm is not your friend on Facebook or Instagram. Right? It's not your friend. You can put 10 like posts a day, and your friends will be like, "I didn't see that." It's not built to help you make money in that vein. So do as many shows as possible, not just Comic Cons. Talk to people at comic book shops. Hey, can I sit here and do a book signing? I tell people all the time, go to places that aren't where people sell product that aren't comic books. I did a show at a Christmas wreath making event. I kid you not. I was the only person there with comic books. I did like $800 in like one day. It was shocking. But it was like every parent that was there with kids, and the kids were getting on their nerves. They were just like, take a comic book and leave me alone. And so it just kept going. So I go every year. Find avenues that aren't traditionally comics, go there. Get as many eyes on it in person as possible, because as much as you think your product is great, A lot of times people buy your product based on you. If they like your personality, if they like you as a person, they will pick up that book very fast. And I would say the funniest, maybe not funniest, but probably the most unique marketing opportunity I did is I went online and found like 15 stores across America, comic book stores. And I sent 10 books to each of the stores for free. And I was like, just sell them. If people want more, then we can talk. And I think all 15 stores sold out. And I would say half of the stores asked for more. I didn't do it again because it was a lot of work and a lot of work tracking all that. But I had people from California who came to a con and they're like, oh, I bought you there. And they were like, I was like, you bought my book? And they're like, yeah. I was like, I ain't been to California. And they're like, no, I bought it from this store. I was like, oh yeah, I did that like a year ago. But try and be creative, you know. But just understand that as much as you want to just rely on social media and you think that it will help you and for a large degree, stop. Got to get out there, get your face out there, do as many cons as possible.
And some of the conventional wisdom you hear about publishing doesn't really apply to you. Like, normally you don't put your name real big unless you really made it. Like if you're working with a traditional publisher, you'll see on all my books my name is tall on the top because that's how I'm trying to get people to know me as a person, rather than try and be some anonymous title that goes big or something. So some of the conventional wisdom just doesn't apply.
No.
But yeah, there's also really great indie distributors. There's Neil from Radiator Comics. I work with him. A lot of my servants work with him. He's wonderful. Places that are happy to take your work, even if you're not well known.
You can also go to, there are some more network mainstream comic book stores, but there are some indies who are like willing to Millionaire Picnic and Hub Comics definitely are the ones who are really supportive. I also want to add in there are comic book podcasts that you can go online and they can have an interview with you. And as someone who obviously saw the downfall of Twitter, because before it was bought, Twitter was like one of the big places. I think Instagram has filled the void, but I'm not sure. So yeah, social media is just one small component, but you have to, like, marketing is a job. You have to go out there and you have to talk to people. You have to reach out to outlets and you have to reach out to stores and keep and build that relationship, because they are more likely to support you if you support them too.
I was going to say, one of the things I learned is sometimes you have to take a loss in order to gain. So, when people come up and they are on the fence about getting your work, it's kind of like, oh, well, here, I'll do this for you and make the deals and, sell. Because if you don't sell a book, it's just there. You don't
It's your
gain
inventory.
right.
Yeah,
It's nothing. It's just
Yeah.
costing you money at that point. But if I sell it for, let's just say I'm selling my books for $5 and I sell it for $1. Well, that's $1 I brought in. So you have to get out of the mindset of it needs to all be $10, $10, $10, $10. Have it be $5. Have it be $6. Take the losses, because when that happens, then it kind of pushes out to, oh, this person's, he's trying to work with everybody, go talk to him. And then, then it turns into like, oh, I got a deal to, it's a good story. It's good artwork. It's this. And then all of a sudden you start getting a flood of orders and everything like that. But sometimes it is take the loss and let the quality speak for itself. And then you'll move from there.
I'll say one last thing. You guys gotta remember, like this, like you are an entrepreneur. If you do this, if you go down this route, you're creating a product that you plan on marketing and dealing with customers and everything. So like, treat it like a business. Like I got spreadsheets and a calendar and
LLC.
LLC and logo and like you are a business. Like, and just remember, like, you're a business. Like when you deal with a customer, there's some crazy people out here, and we love them, but you have to have the patience. You got to be able to network. You got to talk to people. You got to make friends. I've never met this man in person, but we're friends on Instagram. But the fact that he knew who I was and I knew who he was, you immediately have a connection with creators when you meet them. Just, like, look in your neighborhood, look near around you, because you might have a creator right in your backyard. You don't even know about it. Like, it's a business. And, like, if you treat it like a business, it will pay dividends like a business. A lot of creators don't. And they kind of...
A lot of creators take it as, I have great work, and then they don't do anything with it.
And they don't do anything with it.
Okay, well, you didn't do anything.
Yeah,
so you
just remember.
Yeah.
Is that it for questions? Yes. Well, you have a question? No? Okay. Well, thank you for attending this panel. Can you all tell us where we can find you on social media?
My Instagram is Ingrid, V as in Victor, Pierre. That's where you can find me. Pierre, Pierre, Pierre.
I am Sketchy Got Hands on Instagram. So it's Sketchy Got Hands with a Z. And I am trying to clean up my Blue Sky to make it more comics based, but and I'm still working on trying to build up my YouTube channel too.
If you look for Visually Stoked Media, one word, on Instagram, you'll find me. If you look for visuallystoked.com, you'll find me. On Facebook, Visually Stoked Media. So anywhere you see Visually Stoked, it's me. And if you see somebody else with it, let me know so I can go talk to them. But no, that's...
Mine is just s.comics, so SDOT Comics. That's on all social media, website, everything.
And I'm Mr. Byrd 1027 on all social media platforms. Let's give our esteemed panelists a hand.